With practice and qualifying done from the Glen, Brian and I get you set to go bowling. We'll talk DraftKings, drivers to target, drivers to avoid. We'll look at some updated betting lines from BetMGM and more thoughts on today's race, all in today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, the Xfinity race is red flagged. If Brian starts freaking out here in a little bit, it's most likely because the SVG live gets home. But everything's college football's going, all that good stuff. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it's been a lovely Saturday morning watching Michigan suck but still get a win, and it's been a pretty exciting Xfinity race so far. And we got Cup qualifying and practice in the way, and things got a little wonky. And DFS is going to be crazy. The betting markets are reopening with ridiculous numbers that I wish I had more access to Vegas books, because I would be firing from every single holster I had.
Yeah, it is interesting to see some numbers have moved significantly as Ross Chastain ends up on the pole. Martin Truex is starting in the front row, so we'll have to figure out kind of how we feel about that. Obviously, we'll build some DraftKings lineups. Interesting decisions to make, because obviously, as you were mentioning before, typically the driver who wins this race, I think he said outside of one race, the driver who wins has started inside the top 10 the last 2 years. The winner of this race has been from that second slot. But we got to build some DraftKings lineups and talk about, can people move forward? Is there going to be passing? Or do we just kind of hope they can make some moves in pit lane? And obviously there's not going to be as many laps. So, laps led isn't going to be as easy. I know it's going to be an interesting week on DraftKings for sure. So let me pull up the scoring and the salaries, and we can kind of run through it. So Kyle Larson 10.5, William Byron 10.3, Chase Elliott 10K rounds out. There's 3 10K drivers, all 3 Hendrick, all 3 starting between 11 and 20. Thoughts? I mean,
it was very surprising not to see Kyle Larson or any of the top 3 HMS guys make it to the second round of qualifying. That was a ridiculous turn of events as we got into the qualifying session to not see these guys advance through after a practice session where, you would probably say all 3 of them were pretty fast, and then during qualifying single lap speed, they clearly weren't set up for that, or they just didn't have the trim for that. And I think a lot of that has to do with how drivers are expecting the tires to fall off. So although, as I told you prior to jumping on here, only one of the last 19 race winners from Watkins Glen has started outside the top 10 here. I think that we're definitely in for a weekend where they could make it 2 for 20, because if the tire is falling off as much as it had, and by my count, from what I saw in practice, it was 2 to 3 seconds of fall off after just like 10 laps. So, there's going to be some significant tire management going on here. And I expect the guys that looked good in practice or who are very skilled at doing that to perform well. So it's going to be hard not to want to roster a guy like Kyle Larson, who has been incredible at Watkins Glen, or for that matter, any of these 3 guys, considering Hendrick in particular has dominated this track.
Yeah, Byron's been really, really good here. Our guy Fantasy Race points out it's been a decade since Larson finished worse than 6th in qualifying. So to be starting 20th on Sunday is pretty crazy. So Larson's probably going to be an easy click for a lot of people, but he is pricey, so you do have to make some decisions. The 9K range, I think, is interesting. SVG starting 3rd, Reddick 16th, Chris Bell 17th, Ty Gibbs 15th, and then the Dinger starting inside that top 10 at an even 9K. 4 names that, or I guess 5 names that are all compelling for different reasons. You could skip the Hendrick guys and go down to everybody else. Might be playing with a little bit of fire, but it's definitely interesting. What are your thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, so similar to Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick not making it into the final round of qualifying is probably the biggest surprise of today's practice and qualifying session, considering he had been inside the top 10 and almost every single road course that we've had in the next gen car. And he came into the week as one of the favorites. I know he wasn't the favorite, but he was the top odds on Toyota here coming into the weekend. And to see him not make it through, that sent shockwaves through me and obviously the betting markets, as we'll see after we build all these DFS lineups. But again, when you look at what they did in practice, Reddick went out early and stayed out till the end in both of his group sessions. And so they either really like the car or he was just feeling things out to see how it was. I think he likes the balance. We know how good he is at road courses. I don't expect him to be running outside the top 10 for much of the day. I definitely see this car getting up near the front. And so, this might be a week where you start Larson, Reddick, and then build from there. But you're going to run into the possibility that everybody is looking at starting their lineup with a similar top 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for good reason. I also think Chris Bell, incredibly interesting, and even Ty Gibbs, who I know, when we talk outrights, is always a little harder just because he's never done it. But from a DraftKings perspective, given where he's starting, given his ability to move forward and what we've seen of him at this track,
yep,
he's pretty compelling. And honestly, the Dinger, we know he's the road course ringer. We know his betting market has crashed, but does he, given where he's starting at 6th overall, I don't think he'll get as much love, and maybe that's probably for the right reasons given how close he's starting, but also he could easily be the car you need where he just is the best car all day, gets to the front, wins the race, and we're like, we should have seen it coming. So I don't.
Well, and then I think it's also to point out, because this is the playoffs and you have guys like Tyler Reddick, for instance, who he's still well into the second round right now, as long as he doesn't do something drastic tomorrow or today when you're watching this, in the race and ruin his day. But a guy like Shane Van Gisbergen or AJ Allmendinger, for betting purposes and for DFS purposes, they're going to be checkers or wreckers because they're not points racing. They're not trying to accumulate points for their teams this weekend. They're there to try to win the race. So I think somebody like Allmendinger, who we all know, if tires come into play at a road course, he is one of the top guys in the field for that purpose. And the fact that he qualified inside the top 10 in a Collet car, the second Collet car, he got the shit equipment this week and he still put this on the 3rd row. So AJ is coming here to try to win the race, not be riding around all day and not be part of it. So you be running the risk of him wrecking because he is going to be checkers or wreckers. But I do think he's a nice pivot off of some of these higher price guys too.
Yeah. I think he and SVG, to your point, both make a ton of sense. As if you want to have one driver inside the top 10 that could make some sense, that could get to the front quickly, that could lead a lot of laps and be really, really good and have a chance to win, I think both make a lot of sense. And obviously you're playing with a little bit of fire, but when you're building tournament lineups, that's exactly what you're going for.
Yep.
Speaking of fire, Kyle Busch starting 13th at 8,800. Martin Truex, if you want to do that, 8,600 is starting 2nd. McDowell starting 10th, 85. Buescher 24th. Buescher, man, there was so much Buescher love coming into the week. Starting 24th. We'll see. And then Dennis Hamlin. What are we doing, Denny? And then Juan Pablo starting 34th, 8K. I know his starting position sucks, but he looked decent enough in practice where you could squint and see it, and he's like a top 15 car.
So from what I was watching in practice, I mean, you could take this with a grain of salt because there were guys, a little bit different strategy or something like that, but they did interview him post him running. Juan Pablo Montoya, he had the best late run car in Group A, I believe it was, towards the back end. Yeah, when the first session of Group A, Juan Pablo Montoya was actually the best car on track by a significant amount. So clearly he was able to, I don't know, take care of his tires, but I can also look at that and think, well, maybe he was just kind of feeling the car out early and not putting as much wear on the tires early in the run, whereas everybody else was trying to see what their top speed was. And so there's definitely something to look into there, but clearly he doesn't have the short run speed. I do think he's probably a top 20 car. When you put a guy of his skill level into a field like this, where he is a legit road course ringer. And, you know, the issue is going to be, I don't think you could build a lineup in a GPP with, say, Larson, Reddick, and Montoya, because those guys are going to be extremely popular based on where they're starting and their expectations coming into this weekend.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think you got to mix and match.
Yeah.
Find good balance.
And one more thing on, so first, Martin Truex Jr., holy shit. When Martin Truex Jr. qualifies like this at a road course, he put everybody on notice. You'll see when we go to look at the post-qualifying odds, it might be a Marty party on Sunday in upstate New York here. So get ready for him to potentially jump to the front and lead a shitload of laps. And it would not surprise me one bit. I will cry because I didn't get on any of his pre-qualifying numbers, but so be on the lookout for that. I think he's a good pivot again from those higher price guys. And then Chris Buescher. Not surprising for him to qualify where he does. He never qualifies well on road courses, but he's always there at the end. I know I faded him in a matchup early in the week, which I could probably now go back to the other side and hedge a little bit, get a little bit of ARB opportunity here, but I do think he's going to be strong and potentially be a top 10 car by the end of the day.
At least you didn't fade Martin Truex at a road course with Chase Briscoe. Just remember that.
Look, the books were on to something there, posting that, trying to get people trying to take on money on Briscoe, which, look, from what we had seen out of Truex the last few weeks, I think it was fair to take the big money with Briscoe in that matchup. I do not
fair. Marty Parkey could absolutely park it real early and be out of the way. And that's kind of my thought process, but it is a little terrifying given what we've seen. That he's just awesome and does what he did at Sonoma and just dusts the field.
Yep. And what I was saying, again, prior to jumping on here, Martin Truex Jr. was one of the 4 best cars in Group B at practice. I have it down for Group B practice today was Truex, Cindric, Suarez, and the 13 of AJ Allmendinger were the best 4 cars in Group B. I don't really think it was particularly close during practice. All 4 of those guys either had really good short run speed with decent long run speed or really good long run speed. So it's fair to think that Truex could be your dominator here. And had this race been like last year where we didn't have stage breaks, I think there's a legit possibility that Truex would be able to just throttle the field here, especially at a track where we're going to see tire wear come into play.
Yeah, I mean, we have each range kind of has interesting decisions if you're looking for kind of a early dominator to go with your back markers moving forward, and SVG, Truex, even Dinger, and then as we go into the next range, where we have Daniel Suarez starting 8th, Austin Cindric, as you mentioned, starting 5th, who looked really, really good.
It was really good.
Alex Bowman, who was the best Hendrick car, and I'm not sure anyone saw that coming. Ross Chastain, who looked fast and put it on the pole. Ryan Blaney starting 30th. RIP Blaney. Logano starting 7th. Briscoe starting 12th. And Keselowski 28th. RFK just did not show up.
They're not qualifiers, though. We know this.
Yeah. Chastain, Cindric, any interest in them as kind of that front runner, and then you kind of build around them just because of the price, or is it really just you want either a Dinger, a SVG, or maybe a Truex?
Well, I think it's important to remember when Trackhouse was really good on the road courses. The first year we were in the next gen car and we were going to Coda, for instance, they looked incredible. I think you can take some comparable type situational stuff into this weekend here. We're in kind of a newer road course package with these cars, new tires. They changed up the track a little bit. And considering both of these guys unloaded as fast as they did, I am not for 1 minute going to start saying that, oh, I expect Ross Chastain to plummet here because, again, going back to my practice notes, he looked really good.
Yeah.
And although he has nothing riding on this, we saw him do this at Phoenix last year when
Mhm.
nobody expected it. Everybody was just thinking, oh, something is going to occur, something's going to happen, but it didn't. He also
Yeah.
shaved, so he's got a new outlook on life. Like the watermelon man is starting to look like a watermelon because he's completely shaven, nice and fresh and clean. Look, maybe he's here to upset the field again.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about it pre-practice and qualifying too, as that Trackhouse team is just like finds a way to show up at places you don't expect, and even in the playoffs. I
Yep.
will say, I know a theme we had most of last year, not so much this year. When Ross qualifies well, we fade him on race day, and when he qualified poorly, we were in on him. So part of me is like, do we keep that trend alive, or do we not stress about that? I'm not sure. We can figure that out when it gets closer to betting time. I don't think I have the stones to do the Chastain as my dominator when I can get Truex, when I can get SVG, and I don't even like Truex, and I think he might suck, but
Yeah.
if he's going to be this good, he's going to be hard to fade completely.
I will add, just going back to the two next gen car races here. The pole sitter has led multiple laps in both races. Last year, Denny he was a faux pole sitter. He still led 3 laps at this track, and I would say that Ross Chastain was better than him in practice this year than Denny was last year. So he
Yeah.
didn't just have short run speed. So Chastain is going to be much better than what Hamlin was. He's going to have the preferred line going into turn 1 here as we start the race. He's got a battle with Martin Truex Jr. But from the notes that I took, Truex was good on the long run, not on the immediate short run. So
Truex is going to get the jump on him, and then Ross is going to wreck him in lap 1.
oh my God. Could you imagine the first corner?
Pencil that
Chastain
in.
takes Truex
Pencil
out.
that in. He's gonna get annoyed that Truex is right there, and he's gonna dive down into him, and it's gonna be ugly.
If that were to happen, I definitely think you would see the calm and collected Martin Truex Jr. maybe finally flip a switch and just go off, and then you have the entire field going after Ross Chastain.
He's just gonna go park. He's just gonna go park his boat in the middle of the lake and do some fishing and not stress about it.
Yeah.
6K. Gillen, Gregson, Bubba, Eric
No,
Jones,
his car
Justin Haley,
sucked.
Hocevar, Austin Dillon, Richard Stenhouse. Any interest in anybody in the 6K range?
I really don't think this is a race where you can get cute with these guys. I mean, if we're going to continue to harp on tires playing a factor here, I just don't see any of these guys really. Maybe Haley, because he's starting at the back of the field. If he can just keep the tires on it, maybe he gets you a top 30, but he didn't have pace in practice, clearly didn't have pace in qualifying, so I'm not expecting much out of that car.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to force us into a more of a balanced build if we want to avoid this.
Yep.
Even as we dip into the 5K, Zane Smith, LaJoy, Nemechek, Priest, Harrison Burton, Daniel Hemrick, Kaz Grala. Like, if we're unwilling or unable to get into any of these guys, it's going to probably eliminate some of these guys. So, I guess with that being said, let's build some lineups and see where we go.
Let's do it.
First click, Brian Twining. Anybody, anywhere, any price. Who you want?
Let's get gross, baby. Martin Truex Jr. Come on. Marty Party.
Disgusting. Should I put Chase Briscoe in just for the feels?
No. Come on.
Nah. Ooh. go on Pablo's.
All right. I don't hate that. All right, let's go from this spot. Let's go Reddick here.
Okay.
I think that's a decent.
I think he's pushing it enough without going all the way up to Larson.
Yeah.
I know you don't love him from a betting perspective, but I'm going to put in Chris Buescher.
Oh, yeah. Look, I don't hate that because I think he's going to be solid. Which is
Given
kind of
where
what
he's
you're going to need here.
starting, I think he's a fine click.
All right, this is going to be
oh god,
pretty wild, but give me mi amigo.
Daniel Suarez. Can we go Ryan Blaney? Starting 30th?
I mean, he wasn't.
Is that too many squirrels in the back?
He wasn't great. Like, he wasn't good.
Yeah. Cindric was awesome, and we've seen him be better. I don't know.
Yeah, but the difference is like in the past, Cindric was considered one of the better guys. Now, the one thing I will say about Blaney is that he is very skilled, just like his teammate Joey Logano, at somehow producing decent finishes. And so I do think if you can get like a top 15 out of him, I think that's worth it.
Yeah.
He's done that 5 of the last 6 trips here. So
grabbing track position and holding onto it for dear life. But he did have serious fall off.
Yeah, there was like some significant issues with that car.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we don't want to do. I mean,
no, I have zero interest in Keselowski.
Keselowski, Blaney, Bubba, like it's all kind of really gross.
Out of those guys, I will say I like Blaney better. Preferably it's going to be Blaney, and for the most part, it's because I think next week Keselowski knows that he's going to have a legit shot to run up front and potentially win the race. Bristol is one of his really good tracks. He was really good here in the spring when you had the crazy tire situation. So yeah. I think Keselowski is somebody that's just going to kind of mitigate issues and just ride around. He'd be fine. He'd be fine doing what Denny did last week.
Let me see what you think about this. Instead of Buescher, we go up to either McDowell or, I mean, even.
I don't hate Busch this week either. I mean,
that's what I was really good. I don't love Kyle Busch, like generally, but do you like him more than McDowell? McDriver really found some speed.
Yeah, but that team is just like,
yeah,
he's
also pretty good at road courses in general. Well, so my thought is that if we go up from Buescher, because we're going to probably dive down anyway, so we do Kyle Busch, or we could do.
I was just going to say though, if you go like are you willing to pay down for McDowell for losing 14 spots? Like, is McDowell going to win the race? That's essentially what you would need out of him.
That's true.
To play him instead of Chris Buescher, because Buescher's potentially a top 10 car. So you would need McDowell to win the race and lead laps to outscore Buescher at that point.
Yeah. No interest in Dennis?
I don't know. He's going to be like a luck box finish if he gets one. That's just kind of the way I'm looking at him.
Yeah. And like we could pivot off of, like there's nowhere else really to pivot off of. I guess the only other thing is if we didn't do Reddick, but he's such a comfy click. Then we.
Oh yeah, no. I think you gotta have Reddick or Larson.
Like
if you don't
McDowell, if we go up to Larson, we could do like a Larson, Haley, Bubba Wall, or
Eric I don't like Bubba at all this week. I'm gonna say
Eric Jones. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do what we talked about. We're gonna go. We're gonna go Ryan Blaney,
All right.
and we're gonna go Tyler Reddick.
Yeah. See, I like that lineup.
Yeah. Yep. Let's build another one.
I apologize for my eyes deviating. We're coming down to the final lap here with.
Are they actually running now?
Yeah, but you got cars spinning everywhere and people wrecking each other, and
Okay,
the
so I
leader
think
Connor
we
Village out
do.
front.
I think we do a similar lineup where we get one car that's starting kind of in the top 5-ish. So we could do SVG. We could do. I think we do Larson for sure. We could do Cindric or Bowman. We could do a Bowman Larson start. Chastain.
I don't hate that. I actually like that because I don't think many people are going to get to Chastain. I would probably say from here, you're going to have to get like placement differential guy.
I like Chris Bell, or Ty Gibbs.
All right, I'd probably, yeah. Man, I don't know which one.
Bell's gonna come with more ownership, but he's got 2 more spots. Gibbs has 2 less spots, fewer spots, but is gonna come with probably 10% less ownership.
Yeah, let's do that then.
And I feel like a Gibbs Larson Chastain start is super unique, so we can kind of just fire in whoever. Let's see. I mean, Blaney makes some sense.
Yeah, but I don't want to get too exposed to Blaney in case his car is just
for sure.
shit.
Um,
How about we put Haley in here? Save a bunch of salary. I think he can ride around, get us a top 30, potentially a top 25.
Then the question becomes, we did like a Stenhouse. The board is ours. We could do another Chevy guy and just hope Hendrick has it figured out. We could do Reddick. We could do.
I think here would be a smart play to. I mean, this is getting very risky, but Shane Van Gisbergen.
Do we really want 2 top 5 cars though? I don't feel like we do.
So the last two, both next gen Watkins Glen races, the lap led leaders. Let me confirm this from what I'm thinking here. So last year, 86 of the 90 laps were led by the top 3 starters. And in 2022, back when we had stage break cautions, 48 of the 90 laps were led by the first 3 starters. So just the way that this track goes, the majority of the laps led are going to come from the guys who are starting up front because they're going to have the advantage from the get-go of starting up there. Also when they pit, and then they're going to have better pit stops or pit stalls here. So I don't think it's really that bad to have 2 guys starting on the first couple of rows in your lineup. And
I'm actually looking at iFantasy Race's points from last year's rank or from last year's race. Kyle Busch started first, finished first, and scored the most points. Then it was Blaney who started second. Then it was Larson who started 22nd. Then it was Denny, and then it was Byron. So I honestly
I don't think that's last year's race, sir.
Maybe this is
Denny started on the pole last year.
It says 2023. Am I looking at the wrong thing? I'm looking at Gateway. Never mind.
Oh. Kyle needs another shot of espresso.
Oh, dude, I've been up since 4 a.m. I know. My brain is not
Welcome,
working as well as it should.
welcome to kid life.
Dude, I'm telling you. Let's see.
Yeah, and both years, positions 1 and 3, or the top 2 finishers came from the first 2
Okay,
rows.
let's try this again. Byron started second, finished first, scored the most points. Then Truex, who started 19th. Then Blaney, who started 23rd. Then Bell, who started 7th. And then Hamlin, who started first. So and Dinger, who started 6th that year, scored 7th. So to your point, it's actually not terrible to have
Exactly.
2 cars that are running in the front as long as you think they can be a factor.
Well, and I think the thing though too is that one of the benefits of running out front is that not being in traffic, you can run clean laps, which is also going to allow them the ability to pile up fastest laps.
Yeah.
Which obviously you got to hit on the 2 guys.
Right. And then you have Larson and Gibbs, who hopefully becomes a factor late.
All right, so then we need another back marker.
So this is gonna probably make you throw up a little bit, but I think the 3 names that I'm gonna shoot are Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse, and Josh Berry.
Man, I'll take Stenhouse out of that group. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of
disgusting, but
it's gross, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can, like, I say we could upgrade Haley to like a Keselowski or a Gilliland, but I'm not sure that feels better.
I don't think that does much for me. If this was an oval, sure, but
Yeah.
not on a road course.
We could also upgrade. Do you feel better about Chastain SVG or do you feel better about Truex SVG?
Well, I think because we already have Truex, I think we need some exposure to Chastain on the pole because he was good himself. He was good in his own right in practice. So
you know how it goes. The worse we feel about our lineup, the better it works. So
yeah, and also too, again, like obviously this is no easy task, but if Chastain can get to the lead from the drop of the green flag, he's probably going to lead, 6-7 laps at minimum here. I just don't think, because it's going to take a little bit for the tire wear to come into effect, which I do think Truex definitely has an advantage over Chastain in that aspect. But if Chastain can get to a lead, we've seen him before be able to just maintain a lead, and we know he's the hardest guy in the sport to pass. So
yeah. Any interest in starting a similar build with Dinger and someone?
Oh, my only worry about Dinger though is that I don't know if he has a race winning car. I think he's definitely good enough to stay inside the top 10, which I am praying to the NASCAR gods happens. But like, I don't know if you're going to get many placement points out of him this week. I think he's probably a 5th through 8th type of guy, like ceiling wise. I don't think he's top 3 potential here.
All right. I'm going to take my first and I'm going to put Gilliland in.
Ugh.
I know. He started 25th though here last year and finished 11th. I know it's gross, but he's starting 37th. He's 6,800.
He's in the playoffs too, so he's got to manufacture track position.
And I don't think he'll also push too hard because of that. So,
all right, I got my. Let's do Juan Pablo Montoya again.
Oh. How do you feel about Seabell and Truex?
I don't dislike it at all.
Because we did Gibbs the last lineup. I don't love Truex, so I don't love this much exposure to him. But also, if he truly is the best car and I can't get him in the outright market because I'm not betting his 3-1, 4-1, whatever it is, Might as well get some exposure on DraftKings. So if he is the best car and dominates, then I'm not completely miserable.
Yeah.
Busher, McDowell.
I mean, we don't have
Hamill.
any exposure to McDowell here, so I don't mind that.
I mean, he was really good here last year. It's weird, like as you mentioned with FRM and the exiting, but
I think for me, the hardest thing coming into this week is trying to handicap the race, this specific race, with the stage brake cautions back and the new tire in comparison to last year, where we had just, as they called it, the super speedway of road courses, and there were no stage brake cautions. So the fastest cars could just get out front and run away. And so, like, how much is bunching up the field going to affect this? You're going to get, obviously, guys are going to lose track position during yellow cautions because some guys, who knows, somebody like Joey Logano, who's already into the playoffs, if we only have like a shorter run, like a 6-lap run, he's probably the psycho that would take only 2 tires or something, or take no tires just to try to block everybody. Like, and that could screw up the entire strategy of other guys. So yeah,
So do we just click Busher and finish this lineup up?
Ooh, with McDowell? Oh, man.
Unless you want to do Denny or something. I'm open to ideas. We can also pivot off of...
What about, I mean, if we want to get gross, what about Austin Cindric?
I mean, that's pretty disgusting.
I mean, he was really good. He was the only guy in Group B that came out and was anywhere near the speed in practice that the guys in Group A were.
So we have over 1,000. I think we should fix, either we upgrade Gilliland or Montoya.
All right. Would you rather have Busher over Montoya?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have somebody like...
So I'm thinking like... I guess I don't really love that.
I mean, you could get rid of McDowell and put Gibbs in there.
Yeah, see, I like that a lot better.
That gives us a couple more placements, and I think he's going to be just as
Tyler
fun.
Reddick in there.
Oh yeah, see, I love that.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I mean, I think that's a legit 4 guys that could win the race. And yes, I'm including Austin Cindric in that. Oh man, what a world!
Saw how that went last week. Yeah, no, that's much comfier. I like that.
That's gross.
All right, there's 3 lineups. For more DraftKings thoughts, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, aoppodcast.substack.com. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com. We'll have more DraftKings thoughts. We'll also have our full betting card in there, including our best bets, and more. Anything else you want to hit on before we move over and talk betting, Brian?
No, just kind of what I had alluded to. I don't be afraid to shop the top this week, because the guys starting up front clearly have speed. I do think that this is going to race a little bit different than we've had in recent years at Watkins Glen. So obviously I think guys like Reddick and Gibbs and Bell and Larson and the HMS dudes are all going to work their way towards the front, but
yeah,
how easily they can do that is...
the top 10 hasn't won the race doesn't mean that they haven't been in the mix to win the race.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Betting card is already juicy. We'll see if we can find some winners. SVG 50, Byron 9, Bell at 15, Blaney top 4. That does not look good. Logano top 4. That looks pretty good. Suarez over Busher seems okay. Briscoe over...
I'm just hoping we get the other side of that plus money now.
Oh yeah, let's ride. Brian, how you feeling about Chevy to win at -140?
Oh, I love it. I mean, yes, I think now you got to contend with Martin Truex Jr., but you got SVG is amongst the race favorites. AJ Allmendinger's number got shorter. The HMS guys are still going to be a problem. Trackhouse looks incredible. So the fact that you now have them more in the mix up front, it just adds to the value that you have in having a whole Chevy card, essentially.
Yeah. Dinger top 10 might be the bet of the century. I'm glad I got in a little bit of that. I didn't add it to the card, but that's okay. Logano top Ford, Suarez over Busher, Penske over FRM. We'll see about that. Cindric over Chastain. We'll see about that. And then Chastain over Cindric. We'll see about that. You'll get one of those. You'll figure out your arbitrage, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's like a fifth of a unit guaranteed profit on that.
Roll it. Shane Van Gisbergen, Martin Truex, and I'm gonna refresh just to make sure it's still.
Caesars does have odds now, by the way.
Oh, sweet. We'll check those out too. But it's 3 guys: SVG, Truex, and Chastain, all 4-1. Do you have any interest in betting any of those guys at that price?
Hell no. Especially when I know that I missed SVG at 850, and then I missed Truex at 18 or 20. Like I'm a bitter better. I don't go to somebody like that if I missed that big of a number, which sometimes comes back to bite me in the ass. But
you can still get SVG and Chastain at 6. Do you like that better? It's still too short.
I'm not betting Chastain at 6 anywhere, at any track, nowhere. I don't care how good he looked pre. Like, no, hell no. Yeah. Van Gisbergen now, that's a different story. I don't mind getting to that.
Yeah. What about the next range? Because I think that's where things get interesting, especially over here where there's value.
That's ridiculous.
We have Dinger at 10, Bowman at 10, Larson at 12, Cindric at 12, Reddick at 14, Byron at 14, McDowell at 14, and Logano at 14. I assume we're both adding Reddick at 14.
Yeah, that number is ridiculous.
Yeah, especially as good as he looked, if he won from even outside the top 10, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's just stupid.
What is your lowest buy price on Reddick if people are just watching now and that 14 is gone?
Probably 10.
Yeah, it has to be double digits for sure.
I think it's got to be double digits because of the trend of guys not winning from outside the top 10 here. Like clearly this track is difficult to pass on. There's not many passing zones. So despite how good he looked in practice and how fast he is at road courses, this is a difficult place to win from that far back. So you got to get paid for him to be able to do that. And also too, like he's safely into the playoffs right now. So how risky he's going to get battling for track position to get up to the front there, I don't know, especially with what we saw at the end of the Xfinity race today.
Yeah. I'm also happy I didn't bet Larson because I was like, I feel stupid not betting Larson, betting SVG, but at the end of the day, it ended up working out. I obviously bet Byron at 9. I would be happy to go to a 14. I do like with Reddick, I want at least double digits. I probably want 12 or 14 with him. But he's in a decent enough spot where I think he could be a factor. There's a 12 at Caesars is fine. I'm not betting Chase or Bowman at 10.
Yeah, no, I can't get with even Elliott. Like again,
Chase is 16 though.
My view is skewed with Chase because I'm holding that over under 2.5 win ticket. So obviously, yeah. So like it's going to take a little bit for me to get there. The one guy who I do think, so
Gibbs at 18.
Daniel Suarez. I don't hate that number.
About 22. How do you feel about that?
Whoo, yeah, I don't hate that either. Like, I'm not going to add it just because I'm sitting on the Chevy ticket, but if you don't have any Chevy exposure, I really don't dislike Suarez at 22. Because again, what I was saying when we were talking about DFS, like in the past, when these two have looked good at road courses, when we went to a new track and we were in a new car and all that type of stuff, they were really good. And so they were good in practice.
Too many outrights.
What's that?
How many outrights is too many outrights?
Well, If you look at my personal card outside of the show that I like other bets that I don't give out, let's
14
just
to
say that
16.
let's just say I get exposure to numerous drivers that as long as one of them wins, I profit a decent amount. So, but I will say, if you're only going to bet like 4 guys, I would probably say I like Suarez.
Let's play a game.
Yeah, let's.
You
This is
have
an
you
interesting.
can only bet 3 names this week at the current prices. You can obviously shop it, so if you want the best of the number, you can get it. But you have $300. You're gonna bet all 3 of them. You can divide it up, so it's even or whatever. So you win the same amount if any of them win. Who are you betting?
Wait, how much money do I have?
You have $300, so you could be 100 on each driver. You could,
Okay.
if it's like 125, 75, however you want to do it. It's not that's it. Just you can make 3 total bets on the outright market at any number that you can find right now. Who are you betting?
Probably betting SVG at 6 over at
Okay.
Caesars. Man, this is really tough. I like the Suarez number at 22.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Man, only 3 guys. Gosh.
Reddick.
I would say
Bell.
if I had to choose, I would probably bet Larson at 10 before I bet Reddick, simply because Larson put himself in a very precarious situation after last week. And so he is going to need a good run here to make sure he's not in dire straits come Bristol next weekend. So I think Larson is going to be doing everything in their power to get up front. And we all know how good he is and how good that team is at post qualifying adjustments, race day adjustments. So double digits on the 5 is always a good thing.
Yeah, Larson's hard to like. I don't love it at 8, but I think if you can get double digits on him, it's like Reddick's moving. Glad we locked that in when we had the chance.
Dude, yeah. I wish I was in Vegas this weekend because I would have both of those guys reopened at 14, and I would have bet both. just to have
Honestly,
yeah. What are your 3 at current prices?
I'm probably going Larson at 10, Byron at 14, and Christopher Bell at 25.
Yeah, I don't hate Bell. Oh, look at Suarez down to, or he's up to 20. Nice.
Yeah, Reddick's close. And maybe I should bet him over Byron, but
I don't know. I just think though, like in Reddick's situation, because of like where he sits in the stand. I mean, I don't know. They don't play the points game really with that team, and he's not sick this week, from what we know.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Alrighty. Anything else outright you want to hit on before we get out of here?
no. I will say I'm very happy to be sitting on AJ Allmendinger at 16-1. I don't necessarily think he can win the race, but if he somehow finds more speed, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. All right, Brian Twining, as I mentioned, AOP podcast.substack.com. Once again, AOP podcast.substack.com. You can get our newsletter with our full bets. We'll have more DraftKings thoughts, more betting thoughts, links to the episodes, all that good stuff. Enjoy the race. Let's cash some winners. Let's make some money on DraftKings. And we'll be back to recap everything next week. We're going Bristol Saturday night, so everything's adjusted a little bit next week, but we'll get to it where we can get to it. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of enjoy the weekend. Let's cash some winners, and We'll talk to you next time.